God was showing me like, hey, Bianca, you've been trying to get me to bend your way. And this is why you're frustrated. This is why you're depressed. This is why you struggle with the things you struggle with. This is why you're just so, cause I've been so upset. Like when I tell y'all this has been coming off, like I feel like our marriage, I was this close. Literally just last week, this close. Just throwing in the towel. Because I'm just like, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do this, you don't do that. And God, it's like, God, where's God? Because guess what? We got all this stuff happening. And guess what? He ain't showing up for us no more. You know what I'm saying? He's not being my do boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm praying these prayers. I'm serving this church. I'm serving this community. And God, where he at?
Please don't. Everybody.
You see us on, and it came off and went back on.
Right, today. But like, it's everybody's story is different. But like for us, and I think a lot of the issues, we got married within 6 months, right?
Yes.
Or no, we got engaged within 6 months and then married a year later.
Yes.
Yeah.
And during that time, now we did do premarital counseling, which I highly recommend.
Yes.
Please, because at least it helps give you some type of foundation, right?
Yeah.
So you have the tools so you're not like starting from rock bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the tools though, it's like you gotta opt to use them.
You still gotta, right.
Because
You
we
gotta
had
use them.
We had the tools, and I'm
It's
like,
better than jumping in
fuck
like
tools. Like,
like
I ain't using them tools.
I
using them
feel
tools.
when you like,
Yeah.
no, bruh. Like you get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Side note, that's the thing with me. That can be like a biggest thorn is when you're going after wisdom, you have a lot, you just got a tool shed of tools.
Yeah.
Just tucking it away.
And sometimes it can be hard to pick which tool
it
to
out.
use at the right
Facts.
proper time.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, you
Right.
know, you got all this knowledge, but practically putting it into practice, it can be very hard personally. But,
Right.
you know, when I'm talking to someone else, I can just say, hey, you need to just do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
this tool is specifically for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
And that's-
really?
Yeah.
And that's the tough part
Yeah.
because it's like I said, having like just like an array of tools, it's just kind of like, I think for a lot of times we don't, before we use it, analyze how we got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because a lot of the tools that like were for the good were like, okay, I got these tools for this, that, the third. Now I had his machete in the back, but I got that to protect myself. And right now, while I'm mad at you, I want to
I'm going
protect
for the
myself.
machete.
So I'm going for the machete instead of the screwdriver that's going to help us get tighter.
wow.
Yeah.
So you don't, like I said, you don't analyze what the tools are and like say how you got them tools.
Yeah.
Because I say again, I guess going into like the struggles where it's like we had, and again, I guess this is probably I'm today a huge advocate of like fully understanding like why God was like, nah, wait till you get married.
Yeah.
wait till
Yeah.
Yeah.
wait till you get married. Wait till all these things. Cause I was like, I came in and it was just like, unfortunately, because we were friends, I'm like, man, I had like I guess like I had like a level of like distrust with a lot where I'm like,
Wow.
I know you, I love you, but I'm like, also like, I know you and I know something you did. Therefore, like
I know some people you've been with.
Yeah.
yeah, I know this, that, the third, and like say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep that one in my pocket. And so therefore, like I said, it was just like, man, I don't trust that. And
Yeah.
therefore, like, because I know not even you, like as if like I started use like assign a moment to being their character.
Their character. Yeah.
And I was like I said, for me, and honestly, like I said, being honest, the good is that I guess Crystal knew stuff about me. She didn't know everything. And that was almost to my benefit. And I took that for granted a lot.
Yeah.
Because she was more open, like I said. And not that it even was worse, but it's like I was like I said, I was outside. Like so. But I was very much like I said, man, like there's a lot of distrust and it's like a lot of communication. And even with the like entitlement of us coming, like me having the entitlement of like we going to be together. And it's like, all right, I say it to you a couple times, then it happened.
Yeah.
So when we go into marriage, I'm like, I still got the entitlement of like,
Wow.
I'm thinking it's gonna be this. And now it's like, well, what? Like what is
Yeah.
like why? And again, part of the like say advocate of waiting, because it's like in dating, it was like, oh, like we had sex a bunch, like as much as you can get. So like when you married and it's like, man, I had a long day at work and I'm tired. I'm like,
I don't want to hear that.
yeah, I'm like, we married. So I signed
Right.
like,
Give me them cheeks.
I'm like the way that, again, it's like,
Relinquish cheeks.
yeah,
Yes.
please.
Not really.
I'm about to say, that's what it was. Like, it's
No,
like,
for
you
real.
ain't,
That's hilarious.
it's like, you ain't read your contract.
You ain't reaching
that
that
part.
part. Listen,
But
right.
it,
Post
and-
haste.
yeah, like it was that kind of stuff. And I'm like, and again, like I said, it's like from we're dating, but also like being like, it's unfortunately being outside is like, look, this ain't something that I gotta like wait for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So
I'm
your
not, I don't do this.
expectations,
Like
Yeah.
so,
It's not realistic.
and we didn't do this.
Yeah.
right.
So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
changing? Because I'm like, it's like I don't operate like this since I haven't since I was like 18. So
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, a lot of like expectation, a lot of I speak for myself was like, you tired? It's like I ain't trying to hear that. Like, and I think that it was a cycle of I feel like we both
Yeah.
didn't like appreciate each other as much as we could and should.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, my coming from a place of like hurt between like dating, between family, between all that stuff, it's like, oh, like you would ask me for stuff, or Crystal would ask me for stuff, and it would be like do this romance. And I'm like, almost like I'm not in the mood to have sex if we're not being romantic. And it's like, I'm not in the mood to be romantic if we're not having sex.
Right.
Yeah.
That crazy cycle.
So,
It's that-
yeah.
yeah,
So it's
Wow,
like we
yeah.
staying
Yeah.
apart from each other, and it's just like,
Ooh, it sounds like
Yeah.
us right now.
But even outside of sex, though, it was like I think expectations. Like we both had
Expectations
expectations
were-
of what marriage is supposed to look.
yeah,
We both came from families, and not that you're supposed to like emulate your marriage off of your families, but we came from families where we didn't see marriage anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we have our own ideas of like this is what it should be, and then when the reality, when it's not meeting those expectations, and you're jumping into this brand new,
yeah,
you're jumping into this with like unresolved issues from like before you got married.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to say earlier, it's like it was like a certain level like resentment about things like from the past that
Yeah.
just we did not have clarity or like closure on.
yeah,
And it would always peep its head. So
Yeah.
it would just be, and we didn't know how to like communicate, to like talk about it in the right way, to like get resolution.
Yeah.
So we would have good days, but then it could just be an argument. It could be something that comes up that
Mm.
triggers
Yeah.
that memory of like, oh, we never really got resolution on this.
Yeah.
And then you're back into the cycle.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's like, I'm not doing this because I don't feel like you fulfill this need for me. Like I don't feel loved in this way. And so then he's not going to do what I, and I'm not going to do what he needs me to do.
yeah,
And that's just like a continued cycle. And that happened for years.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't a constant. And I think that's where it can get really like blurred lines, because it's like it appears like everything's good, but
Yeah.
you know all it takes is just one thing to trigger and you're
One
like 10
thing.
steps back. Right? And that's just,
Wow.
it's not healthy because you can't grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trajectory is you can do this and then you're back here. And then when are you gonna get above? Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
So it was a struggle.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
And
an
then-
impenetrable ceiling.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, and here's the thing though, we really had like a community around us because we were involved in the marriage ministry very early, before we got married.
Yeah.
We were engaged.
We
The
got an
marriage-
invitation to be leaders on the marriage ministry on our honeymoon.
I don't, we,
That's-
they sent us the email.
They sent us the email like a day or
sent the
two before
email
we coming
While
home.
we're on our honeymoon. But that's because we were like actively showing, like we did the premarital classes.
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
coming
But
to
even
the
as
thing.
engaged, we were like, come in, we being involved.
They were
They
pl-
saw
they were
something in
plotting.
us, and they were like young people. They want young
They
people,
want young
right?
people.
So we got invited and we were on the team, but there was just like, we didn't feel like we could be transparent about what was really
Mm.
going on with
Yeah.
us. So it's like, we're on this team and we're even ministering to other couples, right?
Yeah,
But it's like, what's happening in our house,
Yeah.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
just did not establish like that safe space yet.
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
I mean, I would
yeah.
say I don't know if we've fully established it even today. To like honestly,
Well, what's
Like
what's
as far as your
certain people-
ministry, like
what's certain
certain people, but even with that, like there's still a level of like I got to be careful and choose my words and how I say this thing.
Oh yeah,
I think today we both have people that we can go to and say,
Yeah.
"Yo, like,
right,
dang man, this is like,
Yeah.
right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like
yeah,
I'm never all about telling all of
All
my
my
business to
business.
anybody,
Yeah,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think that there's more accountability where there's like certain people,
Yeah.
like you can sense when something's not up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you have that relationship now with some couples, but it's much more transparent than it was like in the
Yeah.
beginning. Because I would
Then
have
it was like absolutely not.
cheesing like everything's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was like
Yeah.
it was bad, and I think it was almost dangerous because like you said, knowing God and being able to be in that space, and it's like I know everything they say to you. I can't go practice it, but I know what to say,
to
and
You
say.
got
I
the
know
words.
like I know how to pray for you. I know how to do all like and genuinely mean it.
Yeah.
But it's just I wasn't practicing it
Yeah.
because it was so much, like I said, unresolved, and I know a lot of it was me not being willing to change. And I think I had and like I said, I don't want to jump ahead, but I had that, like we talked about being like a do boy, like that was me in
Okay.
that space though of like,
Yeah.
because I'm like, one of the beautiful things I say about us getting married was that the way how things fell into order, it was things that I prayed about, and they were just like happening.
The alignment.
And it was like, because like
Yeah.
I said, I ain't had the money to pay for a ring. So I'm like, God, like, if you look out in this way, money just bang, 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 like a week later.
That was
Wow.
us.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
how,
yeah.
like things were just like falling, like pray about it falling in place, pray about it falling in place. And so when we got married, and it's like you pray about something, and that's when things don't fall into place again.
Okay.
I'm like, hold on. Now, I was mad. Like, I was mad at God because I'm like, our relationship is, I'm a faithful servant.
Yes.
I pray about this. This happens.
Yes.
So when things stopped happening, and I look at it today as like God was like, okay. And I truly believe that a lot of things that felt fast were like God, like, I got to get you in this space because you got to be here to grow. Like, you got to be right here to grow.
Wow.
Because if you don't get there,
Ooh.
you might grow, but you're going to grow somewhere else. And you're going to
Ooh.
not grow in marriage. So,
That's good.
like, if we all the same problems we had as married people,
Yeah.
that's why I think that it's dangerous for people to be like, don't get married till you fully healed. You ain't never gonna be fully healed
Okay.
Never.
Never. until you on the other side of glory. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I look at a lot of the things we went through in marriage, and I was like, if I was going through these dating, I would have told you to go to,
Okay.
and I would have went about my business.
Okay.
I wouldn't have thought twice about it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have, and that's why I'm like, I look at some stuff and I'm like, okay, God, like, didn't see it then, but I'm like, we had to be married to go through it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way we'd have been married, stayed married. We
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even be friends. I'd be like, man, I ain't. Oh,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
because I'm a
Right.
even as married, it's like I'll argue with you a little bit, but I ain't really about to sit there and fight with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you argue, fight, and one of my things would be like, man, all right, I'm going to the homie's crib. Like, I don't got to be here. Like,
So passive. I'll be arguing by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. I'll let you argue by
He said, I
yourself.
ain't doing
No,
this.
that's like I said, it's one of those things. Like I said, just
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's like I think it's probably as a man, also you like not arguing with a woman. It's like because people look at you as like less than,
Mm.
and it's like a lot of times when it's like it's your wife's like you're not arguing with your woman. It's like you're fighting for your marriage. Like it's not a argument to make you look less of a man, but it's you're fighting for your marriage. You're fighting for
Yeah.
this thing that God ordained, and you got to learn how to fight the right way.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We
Know how to fight the right way.
didn't know how to fight the right way. And even like today, it's like we still work through it. We way better.
Way better.
Way better. Like, I'm proud of where we are today.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be real about God's goodness.
Nah, seriously.
Okay.
Right.
Seriously. And so, like I said, that was one of the biggest struggles for me. Cause I'm like, God, you brought me here and I'm miserable. Like,
Wow.
it's your fault, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and I was very angry at God. And I think,
I think that even led you
His-
to question, was it even God that we were supposed to get married? Or
Yeah,
did we like
for sure.
make that decision outside of
I
Yeah.
definitely started questioning.
Right.
Like, was I just operating out of like
Right.
just a want for something?
Yeah.
Today I look back and be like, no, there was like,
It was
Yeah.
definitely
But-
God ordained.
yeah, but it was a lot of like I said, being angry with God. And so
Yeah.
it was like, man, I ain't even like you talk to him less, but it's also like, all right, like I don't even like I talk to you less because it's like you, it's almost like you bringing these things is like the way to torture me, and it's like
Yeah.
no, like you gotta. The only way you grow is in the uncomfortability. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in anything that happens, growth
Yep.
comes in the places of being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that even goes back to what we was talking about before thing where it's like people even talking about themselves. It's like being like us being uncomfortable with even like I said bragging on yourself, then it's like you have to do it. You got to go be uncomfortable to get revelation about it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, us having that conversation, being real about God's goodness. And now I'm literally, as soon as you say, I'm like, I can look at this different now because it's not really bragging.
Yeah. Right.
But it's in the uncomfortability. And that's like with a lot of things. That's with just learning in general. Of like, you go and like I said, when I went to our graduate program, I was the least experienced, but it's like being there and being uncomfortable and not thinking that you belong there is like, okay, now I actually grow and learn. And it's the same thing in marriage of like, this is a lot of uncomfortability, a lot. But I think the idea of any way that you want to biblically put it, of like two becoming one, or like the 3-stranded cord. As somebody that had braids a lot of years in life, getting something braided together is gonna hurt sometimes.
It hurts.
Yeah.
When two things are becoming one, that's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Like it's not and I thought like, because like I said, I looked at a lot of those things. It's like, oh, the two become one. It's like, oh yeah, there we go. Now we're one. Like that's good enough.
That's it.
And it's like, no. You don't get it yet. And it's like a lot of those things, a lot of the things that God I think was trying to show us and things like that. I was like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And because it was like say years of like just on and off, I was like, all right, I ain't about to do this the rest of my life. Like I was, and I guess the pride came in a little bit because I'm like, I know Crystal, you're a good woman. I know I'm a good man. We could leave this and both be fine. Like we could both go get somebody else like you and live a great life.
Yeah.
We ain't had no kids or nothing either yet.
Right.
Like, it was,
So y'all wasn't even like
we didn't have kids.
No.
We didn't
Wow.
have
That was a big
years in.
that was a big I think a big reason why we were waiting, because it's like
we didn't want to be on a rocky grind, you know, trying to bring a baby into the
hoping that they,
situation.
like, keep us together.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
like
Yeah.
and I think the benefit of us both coming from families where none of our parents were married or ever married.
Right.
Then
Really?
it's like,
Mhm.
that
Yep.
we came into a space of like, okay, like, I guess good and bad of like, we not going to do something that is going to forcibly keep us together. And we don't need like, I watched, like I said, my mom and like my dad. Again, I look at them and I'll be like, I don't know if y'all ever even liked each other. Like,
Yeah.
Stop letting.
I can't laugh just in case my mom and dad look at this. I can't laugh.
But it's stuff like that, and it's like, okay, we don't need the
We're not repeating those cycles.
we're not going to intentionally repeat things. We don't got to do that. But I know I'll say for me, I guess like fast forward a bit. For me, like I said, I remember it was like November, December of 2018. And I remember, like I said, I'm in my like, man, I'm just I'm like, cause if I feel this way, I'm like, I know she feels the same.
Yeah.
And I know she don't have like some level of like.
But you know what though? Funny thing is, so you heard where he said like he was like
waiting for you.
I'm just waiting for her to say something.
ask for
But the thing
divorce,
is, it's like I feel like I could feel that. Like I felt the distance. I felt the the self-isolation from him, but he never actually vocalized it to me. Like where he was.
Yeah.
So what was one of my 3 things I said? I said, I'm dedicated.
Yeah.
Listen, we're gonna ride this to the wolves.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna be the one to initiate nothing.
Yeah.
I was gonna, because and I think that's part of just like growing up, just being resilient and just being a Black woman in general. It's like I just always had this thing instilled in me. It's like you gotta keep pushing.
Keep going.
So I wasn't going to, in my mind, the only reason that I would ever divorce is if he put his hands on me.
Okay.
And that ain't never happened.
Okay.
So
that's another level.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was just
we
like
both
my
came from crazy
mentality.
backgrounds, but that wasn't when
That wasn't it. That wasn't it.
Yeah.
My mentality. So it's like it was gonna have to be something very drastic that happened for me to be like, I want a divorce.
Yeah.
So we were on.
So it was just a big Western standoff. Like
Seriously.
both y'all just waiting to pull the trigger.
Standoff.
And you know what? It really was that, and I remember a day we was at I think we was in Northeast. Was it maybe at Shannon Shamika's house? When they lived up there, and we were at a marriage ministry event, and everybody was like supposed to look at your spouse, and you tell them like all the things you love about them.
Man.
So you look around the room, and everybody, love.
Yeah.
And I remember I turned, and we looked at
You
each
sat
other,
there, just looked at each other.
and I was like, I don't know what you want me to say to you right now.
Right. What's that meme of Remember that show that Diddy was on?
Oh,
I don't know, talk about Diddy for the
bull.
bull.
They just
The bull
stared
just
at
be
each other.
looking at him. They just be looking at each other. They were like,
Yeah, and I remember we just sat.
that's
We just
that's
looked
how
at
I
each
felt.
other,
We just,
and I was
we just
like,
stared like, I ain't got nothing to say right now.
and it was crazy because I remember I was like, that was one of them days. I'm like, this is crazy because when it got to that point, and I think even saying that out loud, I was like, and you like almost didn't even react. I was like, where are we? I was like, what is going on?
Listen, that was that self-preservation. I felt like I could get through anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I felt
I
felt like it would pass, that period. Because like I said, we was going through cycles.
Yeah.
So in my head, it's like, we'll get through this again and then we'll be all right. You know?
It was
being content.
Yeah.
Right? Thinking that this is just how it's just going to be. Praying that it gets better, but it, just kind of like it is what it is.
The divorce is not an option.
Divorce wasn't really an option for me.
So it's just comfortably complacent.
It was for sure option.
Basically.
It was
for
sure
him,
option.
He wasn't vocalizing that.
He wasn't going to say it.
Maybe at some point he would have if it went too much further, but
like I said, I said before where it's like, it's an option, but you gotta not choose it. Like,
yeah.
And that was one thing. It always bothered me when people say divorce is not an option. I'm like, it is.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking? 1,000% is an option.
Yeah.
We just gotta not choose it.
Yeah.
And I always liken it to the thing I said on the show where it's like, alcoholic that doesn't drink because alcohol is not around is not a successful recovering alcoholic.
Yeah.
An alcoholic who is around alcohol and chooses not to drink.
Yeah.
That's recovering.
Right.
It's not choosing the thing that you could easily take.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, it's an option. Like and a lot of it, like I said, even culturally, I think also as I'm thinking about it, I think a disconnect for us, even with that community, was a lot of them, they were like together since college in like the 70s and the early 80s, where it's like they way more culturally was like divorce 1,000% not like that. Yeah. They lived in the era where it's like, we're getting married and that is what it is. Yeah. I'm about to say. So I'm like, I'm looking at you and it's like, yo, you're like, even on a tip of like, y'all the only people you only known each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was never off the porch. Yeah. So like, like that kind of thing. So I'm like, it's hard to.
Wait a minute. Cause she light skinned?
Wait.
No, not sure.
He's like, she
not that.
I thought you were like, I'm sorry. Was that the wrong porch?
I was wrong
porch.
Wrong porch.
Wrong porch.
I'm dead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. We're not in the hood. We're in the suburbs. Different porch.
No.
Yeah, it's like a lot of like.
Yeah.
People, you can't relate to me. You're not gonna like listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. So it was tough. That was but I say
who was he? Crazy.
But I say like, it's a fact. Just jump forward. December 2018. And this is something that never happened to me. Is I remember I was like at my grandma's house.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to like randomly. She was like, Cosman. You knew my dream. She was like, you need to pray for wisdom.
Yeah.
Immediately knew she was talking. And I was like, okay.
I know that's right.
And that was a like it's one of them joints where like I don't gotta pray, like, oh, what do you mean? It was like, oh, we don't have that conversation. Like, we're very close, but it was never on like that kind of thing of like God said. So when she said it, I'm like, oh, this is real.
Hit you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, I was like, this is real. And I remember when I saw the steps, I was like, all right, God, like, what's up? Like, what are we doing? And then like a couple weeks later, we go to Africa for a friend's wedding. And I always say, like, I feel like God is in Africa more than anywhere else. Because like, you go there, and I was like, it almost felt like when we came back, we immediately got like a reset.
Yeah. Wow.
That never, and it never went back to that. It was like literally we came back from that trip, and not to say we didn't have problems, but just the little dumb stuff that was problems never happened again.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was one I know is like praying about it, and I was like, okay, I really gotta try. And it was like, I really gotta do the work. I really gotta look at myself and be like, okay, I gotta change. Like, it's not and I probably was operating in the sense of like, man, like, it's my world. I know who I am. Like, and again, that's why I say the gift and the curse of being gifted. It's like, you walking in, it's like, I know who I am. Like, I know what God spoken to me about. I know that I'm used this, that, the third.
Yeah.
And so you sometimes act as if like, all right, this is like my world, and like, you fit in.
Mm-hmm.
You come be a part of it. And it's not like, oh, like, no. Like, today I look at it, it's like, that arrogance was so dumb, because I'm like, I look at stuff, and I'd be the first to say it, like, I wouldn't have got through, like, I was hyped to go to grad school, but I wouldn't have got through grad school if I didn't have Crystal.
Wow.
Yeah. So, because there's, like I said, there's so many things that I was like, she did. Like, I needed her help. And I think after that, that's when it started having to actually be like, dang, can you help me with this? Wow. I would have never did that before. It was like, I failed 10,000 times over before I asked for something.
Yeah.
And that's what anybody really, like, I don't ask for help. That's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I think I said it to y'all at UCB where it's like, I need to, it's the disappointment that you've had before where it's like, you know what? I ain't even going to let myself get hurt that way. Yeah. And not try to invest emotions into that.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, like those, after, like I said, it felt like we came back from that trip, like a fresh reset, and we actually like started working, and at like a lot of things in marriage changed, like immediately came back. Like I said, school had like a lot of things that we were looking for just started like rolling into place.
Yeah.
So like I said, it just went forward, and it was like, it was.
Then we got pregnant like 6 months later.
Oh, period. Okay.
Wow.
Because y'all was lighter. That stress was gone.
And it's crazy because we had like a conversation. We were like, maybe we should get off the birth control.
Yeah.
If we feel like, we're in a good space, we were like, I think it's time.
Yeah.
And it was like a mutual. That's how I know.
Like, cool. You didn't even have to talk. You didn't have to say anything. It just happened.
We're like, I think we're ready. Yeah.
I would say even after like Maddie was conceived, I remember we were at a wedding in Pittsburgh, and I said, ain't nothing to do in Pittsburgh. So
that's where she was conceived.
Have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember like after having it was like,
she's like, I think you're pregnant.
I think you're pregnant.
Like what?
A month later, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It was just so, like I said, it was a lot, and it was, like I said, definitely like the people around us that were connected, and I guess having their own conversations with God.
Yeah.
About might not even be about us, but other certain stuff. And I look at like one of my old heads, kind of, he said something to me also where I didn't know, but he was going through a divorce. I didn't know. Because I just didn't know his wife even when they were married.
Wow.
And I remember it was like a day when I'm like, man, I'm like, yo, because I revered his advice, and this I think goes back like to surrounding yourself around like wise counsel. It was like I remember like asking him like, yo, like this is what I'm going through, and he was like, if he would have told me to do some dumb stuff, I'd have did it just because I'm like,
because you respected
him that much, and he was somebody I know. We had a lot in common, same backgrounds, same before marriage, like all of those things.
Yeah.
So, and it was different than talking to somebody from the church, but it was like, he also, like I said, still was relationship with God. And he'd be honest with you. He was like, if you ain't did everything you could do to make it work, then you need to keep doing work. Mm-hmm. And when he said, I was like, oh, like I wasn't expecting it. Yeah. But in the same way where if he told me to do something dumb, I'd have did it. Yeah. When he said that, I was like, okay, I got stuff I need to do.
Yeah.
So it was rough, but like I said, it brought us to here. And thankfully today, I guess we could look back and be like, all right, we did the right thing. This was God. This was that. Yeah. And it's like, and I guess even as we probably move forward into like doing podcasts and things like that, like even our own, it's like, okay, now I think God's starting to like pull the veil back a little bit. Like, okay, now see the more things I'm trying to get y'all to do. Like, see why it needs to be her, why it needed to be him. Yeah. Like, so
you start to see why God put you two together.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, and I know we touched on a lot of, first of all, thank y'all for sharing.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, wow, this is a lot. I love it.
I'm still stuck on 6 or 7 years, but I'm like, you know what, Jesus? I'm like, if it, honestly, that's one thing that like, government coughing.
Sorry.
But one thing like you guys touched on too is just like, y'all were just very real about where y'all were. You know, like he's like, I'm waiting for her to just ask for them papers.
Right.
And you're like, baby, I'm in this for the long haul. Like you gonna be waiting. You know what I mean? Like people don't talk about that. And so and it's crazy because you guys were still in ministry. So you guys were still doing things God's way. So like I want you guys to talk about what it means now to be married, like 1 + 1 = 3. Like, what does it mean? Like looking back at those 6 or 7 years and like doing ministry and going through those rough patches while being married to now 12 years in tomorrow,
Yeah.
like, what did it look like? And be real. What did it look like having God as your third stranded cord?
That's an amazing question.
Yeah.
That is. I'm about to say, no, that's
What?
Yes.
You know, because you talked about braiding, because
Yeah.
2 braids is hard.
Nah,
but
that's
that third strand,
Yeah.
Right.
people think it's easy. Oh, God,
Nah,
it's just
that
the third strand cord. Like, no, God is going to whoop your tail.
Yeah.
He's going to whoop your tail.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he going to get y'all together.
Right.
So, like, what did that look? What does that look
Facts.
like? Or did that look like?
You start. I feel like I'm talking. Go ahead.
No, you were. I enjoy.
Yeah, y'all
listen,
good.
I enjoy when you.
Y'all, first of all, sidebar, y'all just kind of flow. Like, and I don't know if it's because y'all podcasters, but like, like you let him talk, and then like you'll stop, and then she'll pick up, and then you'll pick up. Like, so y'all just. It's given. It's given.
I think it's the 12 years.
It is. It probably
Maybe.
is.
I was
It probably
saying.
is the 12 years.
Maybe.
We got about 9
I
to
kind
go.
of know
Yeah.
like where he's gonna go with certain things, and I'm like, all right, I think he's done. Oh, let me. I
Yeah.
Alright.
But what was I gonna say?
I'm sorry, girl.
Well, I would say one of the biggest things that I've noticed that changed is back in the day, like in our earlier years, I feel like I didn't trust that he had like my best interest in mind.
Your husband or God?
Stefan.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it was like one thing that like he used to do is like I always knew that he was like a God-fearing man. And he cared deeply about like having that relationship with God. But there were times where it was almost he was like cutting me out of it. Like he would go to church by himself.
Jesus.
He would pray by himself, right?
Okay.
And he was being very intentional about it. And it was like that, I think also kind of led to like the disconnect between us. Cause it's like, we're supposed to be doing these things together. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. What did Paul say?
Right.
It's better to be single, but once you get married, baby.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I felt like I could not submit to that.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
it's like, if I cannot trust, like it doesn't feel natural to submit in this environment.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't feel like you are speaking to the Father and then, you're actually listening to him for how to govern like our marriage, right?
I'm about to say, but you shouldn't have felt that way because I wasn't submitted. I'm going to church and we and God, we wrestling.
Yeah.
That ain't submission.
Right.
I'm
We
like,
doing
nah.
this.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're going in button
You're
heads.
supposed to submit. That was just one thing where it's like, Lord,
Yeah, no.
you might have to revisit this time.
I was not submitted. So therefore, it's like, you can't submit to that.
And that explains why I felt that and why it didn't work.
Yeah.
But like today, it's like, it's no question. It's like, I look forward to things coming up that I can submit to him for.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it feels much more natural and it feels like he is.
Go ahead and get all googly eyed.
But like, he is like the spiritual leader of our family.
Yeah.
And honestly, his growth in his relationship with God, him pulling me into like, oh, we got to pray together. Like he initiated all these things that have, I think, helped with my own relationship with God. And it's like, because he's become such a spiritual leader in our marriage, it's like, it's really him that I feel like connected like God to us. Like, and it really, I have to give him the credit. It's because he's just been so like disciplined and like being in his word. And it's been inspiring to me because it's like, that's always been a struggle for me where it's like, I feel like I can be consistently like in my devotions or in my word. But like, he encourages me to want to do that because I see him do it every day.
Wow.
It's like, that was probably, I think, the biggest shift for me where it's like, I realized how important it is to have like God. I always knew that God wasn't, he
I
always
get you, girl.
was important.
I get you.
But it's like actually it's like knowing it and then experiencing it. It's
Quality
like two
time.
different things, right? And it's because of his growth, I'd have to say. It's like it changed the entire dynamic of that for our relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, sis.
I'm so proud of you.
The-
And
so,
thank you.
like,
Thank you for that.
The one thing I noticed is that it was the shift between, like you said, Stefan, the saying and then switching to doing. It's just like the immediate switch. Like before you were like, I know all the things to say, but I didn't do. But then it just immediately like, I'm doing more doing than saying. And it's just like, so the importance of, okay, you can say all the pretty things, but at the end of the day, are you doing? And that can sometimes be a struggle. That can be a struggle. And it's so, it could be like that big red button, like the divorce button is huge.
Yeah.
It's big red. the Ferrari red, and all you gotta do is
Clifford, the big red.
Yeah, all you gotta do is press the button, but it's only by God's grace that like your hand never goes close to that.
Yeah.
You know, your eyes may peek a little towards that. You know what I mean? Do a little Yeah. But it's only God's grace to like. Did something shift in you specifically, Stefan, where like you were like, all right, I'm saying a lot, but it's now time to be quiet and lock in.
Put the action.
It was, I think a lot of like I said, that before time, they said before, like I said, being told to like pray for wisdom, it was a lot of like kind of leaning on my own understanding of like, I know, like knowing, like I said, knowing things. And it's like, okay, like logically, bang, bang, bang. But it's like, when you really submit and like, I guess kind of shift into that mindset of like, this isn't a logical, worldly flesh battle. This is the principalities and all, like
of the
spirit we operate in the spirit.
Yes.
It's like if you're gonna operate in the spirit, you gotta like really operate in the spirit. Like you have to operate in faith, and you have to. I knew this like had to like submit, and it was like, okay, God, like I was a lot of it was me trying to get God to bend into what I wanted to do.
Ooh.
Talk about it.
And I'm like,
we talking about,
and it's one of them things of like, God, you made me a smart person. Like, trust me a little bit on this one. Like, and that's insanity. Like, I look back at it now, it's like, it's insane. But that's how I was operating of like, yo, like, I'm telling you, this is the right thing that like, almost like you talking to God, like, yo, like you made a mistake.
Like, I know better than you.
Yeah, like, and it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. But after that, it was like truly submitting and being like, okay, what does the word say about this?
Yeah.
I will go and do that. What does, all right. One of the big things for me was, and Crystal mentioned it, but she was like, I don't feel loved and this, that, and that. So it's like, okay, what does the Bible say that love is? Patient, kind, this, and the third. And it's like, okay, when I get mad and I just leave, I'm not being loving, patient, kind. I'm definitely keeping record of wrong. Like, I'm doing, this is what the Bible says love is. I'm not in that.
Yeah.
So if I'm not in that, that means I'm not really in God how I should be. And I'm not, for me, like even like this year specifically has been like a big, like fruit of the spirit year where it's like, am I showing these things? If somebody looks at my life, am I reflecting these things out when you see me? And not just my wife, but like other people, because it was, and because even as he did that, it's like the growth for me came when it's like, okay, it's easy for me to be patient, kind, XYZ with my wife. Because now I have a different appreciation for her and marriage and the union that God put together.
Wow.
But I would very easily be like, I love my wife, but you, man.
I don't love you.
I'm about to say, I could easily disregard you and like, nah, I don't know you. Like, like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So, but it was like, again, like going to the word, and it's like looking at the fruits of the spirit and looking at not even just like the fruits of the spirit, obviously, is like a lot of that, I think, also had to shift my thinking of like, God is saying these things, is like, these aren't like suggestions.
Yeah.
These are commands.
This is commands.
Wow.
These are, you got to do this.
Yes.
And I think in doing that is when I started to like kind of get into a space of like, I started to understand what, or at least part of what I understand, because I'm not going to pretend like I know everything, but it's like I started, I think, to have like a different reverence and perspective on when God is saying like the people that be like, oh, like we prophesied in your name, we did this and the third.
Oh.
And it's like, I'm like, if I keep going the path I'm on, I'm like, it's scary of like, that could be me.
That could be me.
Of like,
depart from
so
me.
Yo,
I never
like
knew.
I did everything.
Yes.
I thought I did everything.
Yes.
And it's like,
Jesus.
I was getting like chills of just like, I could not imagine living, and I guess like, because if you're not fully being obedient, obviously we're gonna make mistakes. Yeah. But like, you know, when you actually trying something versus not trying something. And I think that a lot of it, like if God was to ask, like, are you really trying? Then it'd be like, no, God. Like, but that's no, not God. Good. But it's the benefit is saying that no, today while I got time to chicken change it and fix it.
Yeah.
Versus like the day when it's too late and it's like, did you really? No.
Yeah.
And you out of time. Like,
yeah.
So, and my thing was like, yeah, like, I'm like, I don't want to be like out of time. And I just don't want to be like, I genuinely, when prayerfully my life is over in like 60 years or something like that.
Come on, period.
I'm about to say like time, like, and especially like having kids. I'm just like, I genuinely want my kids and my grandkids and even like, again, we got 2 daughters. And it's like, I want to live in a way where even like the men that end up coming into our lives and being under me will look at me and say like, he is truly like a man, like, and truly live this way.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, like he was cool, but you know, he did that this thing here over there. Like, it's like, man, I really want like, I want like, I want my wife, I want my kids, most importantly, I want God to like be like, nah, like it did it.
Yeah.
And that was like a big thing of like, all right, I gotta like really, really change. And like I said, it's been not it wasn't like some instantaneous me changing, but it's like, nah, like, all right. And like I said, even things I'm like this year and I'm going through and I'm like, nah, like, all right, God. Like I will humble and submit in this and submitting more things that, like I said, that again, going back to them tools that it's like you got them, but you're not remembering why you got it. So be like, you know what? All right, God, you can have my machete. I don't use that no more. Like, all right.
Take
like,
the machete.
Yeah, like take the machete, God.
You can take
like,
the machine gun.
Like,
like you can take
like,
the
like I got this.
Right.
I don't need the chopper anymore.
Okay.
Go ahead, you can have it. Like,
I'm gonna keep the Glock though, but you know
Like,
what I'm saying?
You never know.
And that's the thing though. It's like a lot of it was and I think a lot of that is going to the question of like the 1 + 1 = 3. A lot of that was me not even trying to become 3. It was just like look, you figure out how to work in here.
Yeah.
I'm like, figure out how we're gonna do that because in my mind, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing this, that, the third. But it's like bring God in and really like submit it under that. Yeah. And I think even those like first couple months when like it felt like a reset, it's almost as if God gave it to us and it was just like, wait, is this what life could look like if we just be obedient? Like,
Wow.
It was like, okay, let me try to be better at that. And like I said, a lot of these things I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
And
still,
I think I understand that, like,
bro, it's a process.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't think we'll ever get to like.
We're not ever going to get it.
The peak of where like.
That's why it says you're forever striving towards the mark.
Exactly.
That part.
You ain't never going to get to the
be
mark.
better.
Yeah.
The one saying that I've heard from Myron Golden, because Myron Golden, he's my coach. He just doesn't know it yet.
You hear that, Myron Golden?
Yeah, you hear that, Myron Golden? You're my coach. You just don't know it yet. But he said, all work works. If it's not working in you, it's working on you. And there's so many people, especially Christians, who don't realize the value of the work that's happening on you and in you.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, God, just do this. And we were talking, Bianca and I, we saw this Instagram video about this Christian rapper. He was talking about, I saw God as my do boy. Like, do this, do that, do the other.
You can say his name.
What was his name? I don't know.
Kanye West. It originated because Kanye was talking, Kanye was talking about why he fell off from God. Because God didn't do.
Yeah, he was praying and he didn't do what
he asked him to do.
Yeah, and so like there's so many opportunities for us to say like, God, you didn't do this the way that I wanted it to be done.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if we just took the time to realize, well, God, from past experience, I'm better off from where I was last year.
Facts.
Or where I was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Or where I was
5 minutes ago.
Like for real, 5 minutes ago. It's like, man, okay, I have this wisdom or I have the knowledge that, this, all work works, but the wisdom is like actually applying it. And it's like, wow, man, marriages could be that much easier if we just said like, hey, we're going through a process and your light bulb moment for you guys was 6 years, but with the council and like podcasts like this for the both of us, this could, for other couples, it could be, dwindle down to 1 year.
It could,
or maybe 6 months.
Right. Or it could be you're starting off. I mean, I think you're always going to have like when you first, because that whole, first getting married, you're going to go through that period because you're adjusting to like this new normal. But it doesn't have to be years for people to like finally figure it out. Right. And that's why these type of resources is so important. And surrounding yourself with community, Christ-minded, like other couples. It's so important to like surround yourself because you need that accountability. You need that encouragement. You need to be able to see some successful marriages, some, examples. Like you have to, but it doesn't have to be 6 years like us.
Yeah, no.
And I know like, it's crazy, Stefan, because you even said it. You was like, you was trying to bend God into doing what you wanted him to do. Mm-hmm. It's so funny because God has been waking me up at 4:30 this whole week.
Ooh, Jesus.
We're just gonna blame it on God.
God was baby too. God was not waking me up. He was at 4:30.
He was not. But I went to a marriage. I went to a women's night last week at my old church. And it was, I got the wisdom there, but I had the encounter at home. Mm. And so like the pastor, she was talking about how, we can't try to bend God's sovereign hand. Mm. And so I heard it in church and, I did my, go ahead, preacher. You know what I'm saying? Did my little, what us church folk do. Mm. And then I get in the car and I'm talking to my husband, and it's so funny because this Negro, oh Jesus, I forgot where I was at for a minute. He fell asleep on me, and I'm in tears, pouring out this revelation, like, oh my God,
oh no,
and I'm just like,
that never happens. That never happens. I never fall asleep when there's a breakthrough moment. I never fall asleep.
But God was showing me like that was for me. That was never meant for him, but God realized, he showed me, he said, Bianca, you've been trying to get me to bend your way for so long. And this is why you're frustrated. This is why you're depressed. This is why you struggle with the things you struggle with. This is why you're just so, because I've been so upset. Like when I tell y'all this has been coming off, like I feel like our marriage, I was this close. Literally just last week, this close to just throwing in the towel. Because I'm just like, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do this, you don't do that. And God is like, God, where's God? Because guess what? We got all this stuff happening. And guess what? He ain't showing up for us no more. You know what I'm saying? He's not being my do boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm praying these prayers. I'm serving this church. I'm serving this community. And God, where he at? And so when she said that, and I was having a moment, and God was like, Bianca, do you understand? Like, I'm not gonna bend when you tell me to bend. I am sovereign.